Welcome to the Failing Writers Podcast in association with Scrivener, a podcast for writers who, like Tom and John, feel the calling, the compulsion to reach out to the world despite the great void staring back at them and write their strange and wonderful little stories in the hope that someone, somewhere, might one day read them and perhaps, just for a moment, think, I mean, that's not asking much, is it? Is it?
Greetings, salutations, and commendations to all you lovely writers on discovering the Failing Writers Podcast.
Yeah, or I mean, you could have just said hi. That'd be a quicker way, wouldn't it? Of just saying,
I suppose
hi.
I suppose you're right. Hi would have been probably more efficient in hindsight.
Less wastage of people's time.
Although, why use one word, Tommy, when you can use a whole load of them?
Yeah, true. I know that's your outlook on life entirely in writing. But can we just do it like?
Okay, should we start again?
Yeah.
Okay. Hi.
Hi.
Today we're taking a certain amount of delight in eschewing the big five publishing houses in favour of the unsung heroes of publishing, and that's basically the smaller independent presses that maybe get overlooked by writers. Is that true? Have I just made that up?
I think that probably is true. Hence why we're here doing this episode, I guess.
Yeah.
Because you see a lot of talk about self-publishing or querying agents trying to snag, that elusive traditional publishing deal. I think we hear kind of a lot about that, on social media and stuff. That's where it is.
Yeah.
I think probably there is generally less chatter about all the great indie publishers out there.
Yeah, I think that is true. So we thought, what better way to find out more about them than by having a chat with a selection of writers who've experienced the whole process?
Absolutely. And as is sometimes the case with us, if you've listened to us before, you might know that sometimes once we get on a roll about a topic that we're interested in, we do sometimes get, I don't know...
a bit carried away?
Yeah, maybe a bit carried away. We've ended up with a lot of material.
We've got a lot of raw material.
Yeah, lots ended up on the cutting room floor. We've spoken to loads of people, and as usual, we'll also be wanting to include our incisive, erudite and unimpeachable comment.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, definitely that. Yeah. And so, consequently, this episode is kind of a two-parter. So we'll start by talking to a few writers who've been published through small presses so that we can find out what the benefits of working with an indie publisher are and, how it works and what you might expect that relationship to look like. And also find out why the writers we spoke to decided to go down, the small press route. Yeah.
But on top of all that, we'll simultaneously be putting out part 2,
yes,
in which we hear from an independent publisher with an almost embarrassingly great rep. Talk about an embarrassment of riches. It's ridiculous. The award-drippingly television adaptation airiness peak of lit fic publishing, which is Blue Moose Books.
Yes. And then to follow up the high of Blue Moose, we'll also be hearing about the lowest of the low. At the exact other end of the spectrum of publishing, we're going to find out about publishers. That was my... Was
that your air quotes there?
That was my air quotes.
I picked up on that. It's good. Yeah, no, you did that well.
Publishers whose motives are far from honourable. The scammers.
Boo.
And also how to spot them.
Boo.
And we'll even be hearing from someone who fell victim to a publishing scam.
Yeah, awful story that really, but an absolute must listen, I guess. In many ways. But anyway, before we do any of that, firstly, we obviously have to remind you that the Failing Writers Podcast is sponsored by Scrivener, which is always a pleasure because John and I are actual real life fans of Scrivener. We do use it and we love it, so we don't need to pretend that we like it.
Yeah,
so, yeah.
It's nice, that isn't it? I think you can always tell when a podcast or a YouTube channel has picked up a sponsor that they're not really like 100% behind.
Like they're being held hostage and made to read it off a board or something. You kind of feel sorry for them. But money talks and all that, doesn't it?
Welcome to the Bearded Hipster Podcast with me, Xavier Grimes, letting you know what's cool, what's old school, and what will make you drool this week. And the show today is sponsored by Carpetland. A whole world of carpet awaits you at Carpetland. And not just carpet either, they've got laminate flooring, rugs, and don't forget this week there's a special offer, 50% off underlay. Underlay, Ye bar, ye bar. Anyway, enough of that. Back to the sponsor that we do genuinely love, Scrivener. And Tommy, how can people get hold of this magnificent writing software?
Dead simple, dead simple. Get yourself to literatureandlatte.com, pop in the code FAILING, and get between 19 and 21% off Scrivener.
So, hang on, so 20% off then?
Well, actually, no, I think they've changed it now, so you get a fifth off instead. But yeah.
That's great news. Thank you, Scrivener.
But use the code FAILING.
Righty. On with the show. We've got a lot to get through, haven't we? So, shall we...
We have.
Let's, I'll tell you what, we'll start at the beginning.
But a traditional place to start, John, isn't it? But
yeah,
probably with good reason, I would imagine, in many cases.
Yeah, because our first interviewee, a writer called Christopher McGuinness, actually inspired these two episodes. He wrote to us back in midsummer, and he told us that he'd recently released his debut novella through a small independent publisher.
Yeah, and that got me thinking, actually, wouldn't it be good to do an episode on small presses?
And we can only hope that the answer to that is yes, because we've got about 2 bloody hours of it in these two episodes.
I hope so. So, Chris, you were our muse and our inspiration for this episode, because you dropped us an email begging to come on the show, as many people do. You're not alone in that. But what sparked our interest, made us think, hold on a minute, we should actually do a full episode on that, was you were saying you just had... was it a novel or a novella published?
Novella, wasn't it?
Yeah, by a small independent publisher. And we thought, well, that's an interesting facet of writing and publishing that we haven't really touched on much. We've talked to a lot of people traditionally published, self-publishing, but that gap in the middle of what it means to be published by an independent publisher, like a small outfit. So let's start there. How did you get to the point of being published by a small independent publisher?
Well, I had written a novella, and it was I think the second one that I had written, and I decided that was going to be the one that was going to be, the first one that I would send to try to get an agent. And I really quickly discovered as I started that process that in terms of what agents were looking for, it probably wasn't the thing to send to them. One, it was a novella. A lot of agents are looking for full-on novels. And the other thing, it's a gory, violent, Western cosmic horror story.
Yeah.
So it's a niche within a niche within a niche. Obviously, that's not something that might be appealing to big publishers. And so after kind of shopping it around to agents, I turned to the indie publishing world and, thought I'd try my luck there. Just started, doing my research, kind of developed a big list of these small indie publishers. They range from ones that are really, really tiny that I never heard of to ones, at least in the genre that I write in, that are more well-known and popular, and started submitting. And I lucked out and heard back from a small publisher out of Arizona, Alien Buddha Press, who said they were interested in publishing the novella, and went from there after, doing some research and learning more about them and, feeling comfortable with what they wanted to do with it.
And what was that research? How did you kind of make sure they were reputable?
Once I found them, the first thing I did was check their website. I looked to make sure that they actually, published books, looked at what kind of books they published. They're really cool. They publish a lot of poetry and art books and zines. So it looked like they were kind of a fun, kind of funky indie press. And then I actually looked through some of their authors and I found one that I recognized from social media. And so I actually reached out to this author and asked him what his experience was like,
right, great.
And asked him what he thought about them. And he said that he really enjoyed working with them. He kind of went over what he thought the pros and cons of going with a small independent publisher was, and specifically this one. And so talking to him really made me feel a lot more comfortable about moving forward. He was an author that I like and that I trusted.
Well, there's our first top tip for the episode, I think, isn't it? That's a smart move. And what were those pros and cons?
Well, I think the pros is obviously that this press and many small indie presses, if you find one that publishes within, if you're one of those people like me who likes to mash up genres, who writes in genres that are maybe a little more niche, that they are willing to take the chance on a book like that. They're not looking for the next huge smash hit. I'm sure they would love it if they got one. So I thought that was really great. Some of the setbacks is because, this is, again, a small indie press. Really, it's kind of one guy, right?
Right.
Is that, when it comes to the promotion and marketing, that's not going to be as robust, obviously, as a big five. They have a really good social media following. They have a YouTube channel, they have a newsletter, and so they promote the book that way. But this place isn't sending tons of ARCs out to Bookstagram influencers and things like that. And so I knew that portion of the marketing promotion would fall on me, which was fine. So when the book came out, in addition to what they were doing, putting it out on their channels, I just kind of put it on myself to support that effort by emailing you guys, reaching out to publishers and editors I'd work with to ask if they would be willing to blurb it and things like that. So it's additional work on that end, and it's different with every indie publisher. I'm working with another indie publisher now on a novella that's going to come out next year, and they have reviewers that they'll send ARCs to. They're going to do a little bit more of the marketing. I'll still obviously have to help out. So really, every press is different.
Who's the other press that you're the other indie press?
It's Cloaked Press. So they're another great small indie publisher, and I've really loved working with them. They are getting ready to send me some developmental edits and things like that, but they're working up a marketing plan for it and things like that. So
all right, great.
It's a little more robust then.
So you're getting a bit more guidance from them. Did you get any kind of guidance from Alien Buddha? Like, this is how to do it. This is how to approach the whole thing.
Yeah, I did. And that just came from me asking questions. They gave me some tips on making some videos for them to post to their YouTube channel, and giving me tips on how I could snag some authors' copies from them and what I could do with those.
Yeah.
And really what I've learned through the whole process is don't be afraid to ask questions. I think some new authors are a little intimidated. They're like, okay, this place wants to publish my book, I better do whatever they ask. But a good publisher will answer your questions and be transparent with you through that process. And I've been really lucky with both Alien Buddha and Cloaked to have that.
And Chris, in terms of the process, when you've signed up with these publishers, do you get a small advance, or is it just on how's it work in terms of sort of the financial side of it?
Again, every publisher is different, but in the case of both the publishers I work with, it's just royalties. There wasn't an advance. Some of those small indie publishers do offer an advance and royalties.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. And again, one of the things I've learned is, it's always about doing your research beforehand. Most of the reputable places I looked either had that spelled out on their website, or if I asked, were able to tell me this is what we usually do when we accept a book. If they were hesitant to tell me how that process worked, or contract language seemed vague when they sent the contracts over, that's usually a pretty big red flag that you may not want to work with them.
I mean, the trouble is, the want to be published author, there's such ripe pickings for scamming, aren't they? For just, they're so vulnerable in their desire to be published that it's very easy to overlook those little bits in the contract that don't quite add up, or the fluffy language around something.
I think if there's any cost involved for you early on, that's a bit of a flag, isn't it?
Absolutely. It helps for me because I'm cheap anyway. If I want to get into an expensive, into something expensive, it wouldn't be writing. I'd golf or something like that if I wanted.
They're going to have to squeeze me pretty hard.
Yeah. And that's the thing again that I've learned from talking with other writers is the money should flow to the writer. If they're asking you to pay any money up front, that is a huge red flag. They may tell you, hey, we don't have a big budget, so we don't do this or this and this, or hey, we don't give a huge advance, or our royalties are smaller. And if they're being honest with you about it, then that's something you can factor into your decision whether or not you want to move forward with publishing with them. But that is kind of one of the difficulties of this space, is that it is really the Wild West. And there are people out there who will take advantage of that excitement of being a first-time published author, or kind of the intimidation factor of, oh, this place wants to publish my book, I want to make them happy. So, it's always good to remember that it's a two-way street, that they can't publish without the thing that you wrote. Any reputable place is going to be willing to be professional and answer your questions and be transparent with you.
Yeah. So absolutely key question, how's it gone? Are you selling books? Or is this less about selling books and more just about kind of getting it out there and learning about the process and building your profile and stuff like that? How's it gone?
I think it's gone pretty well. The sales right now aren't huge, but it was more than I thought it would be. And a lot of that had to do, again, with both the publisher and me kind of going out on my own and promoting it and telling people. But you're right. A lot of what I wanted to do with this first novella is really get a taste for what the process was like. And this second time around, I definitely feel more confident and am able to maybe plan a little bit earlier with this first with my first novella. When that came out, it kind of came out and I was like, oh, I should do something to promote this.
Well, it's got a great name, Chris. Hellbound Bastards. What a great title.
So, always fun to bring up in polite company when they ask me what my book's
called. Give us the quick 20-second pitch for it then, so people can get hold of it if they want to.
Sure. Hellbound Bastards. It's a gory Western cosmic horror. I like to say it's a Sergio Leone meets H.P. Lovecraft. So it's about a hardened, ruthless gunfighter who is sort of shanghaied and taken to a little town in the middle of New Mexico where he is sort of forced with a gang of other outlaws and misfits to confront this eldritch horror that's creeping in and coming after the residents of the town.
Sounds great.
I can almost see the B movie.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's definitely inspired by old B westerns and that kind of old 70s horror movies. So if you like that stuff, you'll definitely like
loving the vibe. Loving the vibe.
It's got like Tarantino Rodriguez vibes to it.
Yeah, definitely. I did my historical research, but it's much more on the side of fun, crazy old movies than super historically accurate fiction.
Chris, thank you so much for not just inspiring this episode, but contributing to the episode there with some wise words, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
Great. Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate you having me on.
Yes, so maybe that's a good point to start with. Those smaller presses, they're going to be more willing to give niche genres a chance.
Yeah, I think gory Western cosmic horror counts as at least a bit niche, doesn't it? Probably.
I think it might be a niche within a niche, but yeah. Definitely. And on top of that as well, different length of manuscript as well. Because, I mean, it is hard, isn't it, to get a novella published with one of the big boys?
Yeah, definitely.
They're all about those novels, and it needs to be...
Yeah, they've got a very specific
85,000 words.
Yeah.
Tick
the boxes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so thanks, Chris.
Yeah.
And please do check out the link to his work in the show notes.
Yeah, we should. That's something we should point out, actually. We'd really love it if you're able to support any of the people that have been kind enough to share their publishing stories with us. So if you think, oh, that sounds like the sort of thing I'd read, then please do buy one of their books.
And also, who the hell isn't in the market for a gory Western cosmic horror? Come on.
I mean, I said, oh, that sounds like the sort of thing I'd read. Even if it isn't, you've got to try that, haven't you?
You just got to give it a go. Yeah, definitely. So, next up, we talk to Kathryn Aldridge-Morris, who just so happens to be the next Bath flash fiction judge, no less.
Did you say Bath?
Like how I did Bath.
You did Bath
instead of Bath, because I thought the Southerners might not know where I meant.
Confused, completely. And she talks about finding that connection with the person publishing your book. And I don't know if is that easier with the small presses because they're inherently more intimate? Do you mean there's less?
Right, yeah, maybe.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's kind of less about the pounds and pence and more about just doing the book justice.
Maybe. Yeah, that sort of thing. Yeah. Anyway, here's Kathryn and hey, John, a great lesson on interviewing technique.
All right, why? What?
Buttering them up early doors, isn't it? Oh, I love your work. I love your work.
Well, I know what I'm doing now, Tom. I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
But seriously, it's true. I did.
Fair enough.
I've been reading your flash fiction, Kathryn.
Have you?
Yes, I have. It amazes me how many good writers there are out there in the world, who most people haven't heard of. It's kind of annoying.
Oh, wow.
Do you make an income from writing?
Oh, writing flash fiction, no. It would be nice to start making some money from it. I did get a small advance, which was really great.
Oh, wow.
And I've made some money through winning prizes. But my main job was writing English language teaching materials. So,
of course.
Yeah.
So you get paid for that, but not yet for the fictional stuff.
Not yet. Although, who knows how it will sell.
Yeah. So when was it out? It's recently out, is it?
Yeah, it came out in May, had a book launch in Bristol, and so it's been out a couple of months.
So what was your journey to getting published then? How did you end up choosing who you chose to go with? What's the story?
So it got to a point where I'd been publishing all these standalone flashes, and you just sort of feel like you're plateauing a bit, and maybe it was time to pull them together. Maybe I had enough for a collection. So I put together a query letter. I did a few workshops about how to write a query letter and pitch to publishers. And there's very few out there publishing flash fiction. So Dahlia Books was on my radar because they'd published a collection by a writer I love called Laura Besley. So they were on my radar and I knew they liked flash fiction. And I really only pitched to her and a couple of others. And there was one short story publisher who I pitched to, and I just sort of tried to pitch the idea of flash fiction as well. And she was quite keen. And I guess I was lucky that something resonated in my letter to Dahlia, and she scooped it up and she was keen. It wasn't simply that she was publishing flash fiction as well, though. I really loved her vibe, and I sort of pitched how I felt my writing fitted with her vibe and her centering of women's experiences and also her position on social justice, things like this. And she loved it and accepted the collection.
And like you say, you made it quite hard for yourself because it's not a huge market, is it? It's difficult enough getting someone to take notice of your novel.
Yeah.
But that sort of writing is kind of the poor relation, isn't it, in the publishing world of, well, there's not really any money in it. No one really wants to stick the neck out. So there's fewer opportunities.
And yet you got an advance as well. That's amazing.
Yeah.
I know. That was amazing. That was really nice. And it is really hard because it's a niche within a niche within a niche. It's flash fiction's a niche within short story, and short story is a niche within literary fiction, and that's a niche within, the whole of the publishing world. So it was tough. And I know that there are a lot of great flash fiction writers out there, and it's hugely competitive to try and find a publisher who will work with you, because we're talking about 5 or 6 right now who are publishing flash.
And what did you spend the advance on? Was it like a yacht, or like what did you...
What did I spend the advance on?
Yeah.
I spent the advance...
A small island in the Pacific?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Probably cake and Prosecco, yeah.
Nice. Really living the dream. That is,
Totally living the dream, yeah.
I noticed on their website, is it Dahlia or Dahlia? I always get confused.
We had a chat about this. We were at the Flash Fiction Festival, and she said, people keep telling me that it's pronounced Dahlia, but she says she likes to call it Dahlia because her favourite food to cook is dal.
Oh, okay.
Right. We're very much in potato territory, aren't we?
Yeah.
Yeah, it says on their website they only publish like 2 to 4 books a year. That's a nice bit of commendation, isn't it?
Yeah, it is amazing. I am really, really grateful for Hannah championing my work. I walked into Rough Trade Books in Bristol and it was on the shelf, and I just stood there taking photos of it. It was next to I Like Dick and Daddy Issues, and I was like, wow, that's great product placement there. Yeah.
Very good.
Brilliant.
And so they publish quite widely then, obviously, if it's found its way into various bookshops and things. Obviously not just Amazon, they're kind of across the board.
For Hannah isn't working with Amazon, I kind of got the impression that we probably wouldn't be working with them anyway, just because they're not great for indie publishers. But they make it so uncompetitive that by the time, if you're selling a £10 collection, it's just, you end up almost paying. So it's just not worth it through Amazon. So
are you suggesting that Amazon have some hideous self-centered business model that only serves them to grow their profits massively?
I know, newsflash.
Right, wow, whoa, hold on a minute.
Yeah. There's a huge indie book scene in Bristol. So I've been going to the bookshops and chatting to booksellers, and it's been just another really great part of the adventure, because booksellers are brilliant people and they just want to sit and chat about books all day long. So I've got it into, I think there's 8 indie bookshops in Bristol. I've got it into 7 now.
Do you want to name and shame the 8th so we can put some serious pressure on them? Because that's mean, is it? They're mean.
Have you been into them and chatted them up yet, though? That might be.
I haven't.
Oh,
that's what you need to do. Yeah.
Yeah.
Take them some Prosecco and cake, and then. Kathryn, was this the first time you tried to get published?
Yeah, it was the very first time. So up to now, I guess I started writing flash fiction about 4 years ago, and it's just been publishing standalone stories in journals and anthologies. So it was the first time that I brought them together as a collection and was putting it out there as like a body of work. Yeah.
And have you got a handle on what sort of sales have been taking place? You don't have to go into any numbers or anything, but in terms of your expectations or the expectations the publishers might have given you?
Yeah.
How are things going?
Sales have been great, actually. I know that we're definitely in the 2nd print run now, if not the 3rd.
Okay, that's good.
We had really great news. Republic of Consciousness Prize has selected Cold Toast to be Book of the Month for August.
Oh, wow.
Oh, brilliant.
So that means that they're going to buy up a whole bunch of books and send it out to their subscribers.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Yeah. The flash fiction community is a really supportive community. So people have been reviewing, and editors that I've worked with in the past that I've placed stories with in their journals, they've offered to do interviews and reviews. So I'm lucky to be, working in that very tight-knit literary scene, if you like. And we've recently had the Flash Fiction Festival, and we sold a lot there as well. So I'm really, really happy with sales.
So you're going to do it again? Is there another one in the pipeline? Are you thinking this is the way forward?
I do love it. I'm writing a novella at the moment. I got Arts Council funding to write a novella.
So this is your plan, is it? Just to start writing longer and longer and longer until you're up to like a 3-tome fantasy novel trilogy or whatever? Yeah.
I love short fiction. I really love. The novella's actually a novella in Flash. So I
was going to ask that. I had a funny feeling.
So right now it's a novella in Flash. I do love the short form. I love how it's experimental. And I love the fragmented form of it.
And you don't want to leave your community behind, do you?
No, honestly.
They're coming with you on this journey.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah.
In terms of your publisher, I'm assuming because they're so focused on the small amount of books that they publish, are they quite hands-on in terms of leading you through the process and, helping you market or, the design and editing process? Or are they kind of just leaving you to it?
For Hannah's great. It's a real sense of quality, not quantity. So she set up a Trello board when we started, and it, for me as a newbie into that sort of fiction publishing scene, it helped me sort of visualize the whole process.
Sorry, a Trello board. I'm not familiar.
A Trello
What's
board.
A Trello board?
A Trello board, John. Kathryn, do you want to tell him what it is?
I don't even know.
Oh, dearie me.
How would you describe a Trello board, Tom?
I don't know. I'm completely bluffing. I was hoping you'd...
It's like online Post-it notes.
Okay.
And it's got like little columns like to do, doing, done.
I see what you're saying. Yeah, it's like it's a project management thing, effectively. Yeah. Okay.
But no, she was great. She sorted out the ISBN. To begin with, it was agreeing on like the number of stories, and it was things that hadn't occurred to me. So I sent her originally ideas for a chapbook. So I think I had 25 stories, and her first conversation with me was, let's make sure we've got enough stories to have a spine on the book. And something like that hadn't occurred to me.
That's interesting, yeah, because it's just going to get lost otherwise, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. If you want to get it in a bookshop, it needs a spine. I mean, there are a couple of bookshops in Bristol that sell loads of brilliant pamphlets, but it makes such a difference if you want to get it out there. So then we just chatted about any gaps within the 25 stories. And so I then built it up to 29 stories. And then she said I could send her 3 covers of books that I'd like that captured the tone and the vibe and the mood for my stories. And I was looking around at things like landlines, iconic 70s imagery, this kind of thing, fonts. I spent a whole week just looking at different fonts And then I spoke to my friend Polly, who works at Glasgow School of Art, and she said, why not speak to her cousins who I've been friends with since the 90s? And their dad was Tim Mara, who was a famous printmaker from the 70s. And it's incredible, really, but they said I could use one of their dad's pieces of artwork.
Oh, wow.
Brilliant.
Yeah, so Portrait of Astrid now adorns the cover of Cold Toast. So that was a massive, massive coup. And Hannah then took that cover art and came up with the fonts and the colour scheme and the design of it and put the blurbs on. And she did a brilliant job, because I would never have thought of having the blue and the pink combination. So it just felt like a really great collaboration from beginning to end, really.
I think that's something we're getting from talking to people who have gone through small publishers, is that you, in many ways, seem to get the best of both worlds, where you've got someone who knows the business and has done it all before, but at the same time isn't pushing you to one side saying, no, we know what's best completely. There's still a decent amount of input from you that you get to keep some kind of autonomy of what's going on rather than just giving it all away.
Absolutely. And I think this is why I think it's so important to research the publishers before you send your letter, because you're going to have to know that your vision fits in with their vision. Yeah, and look at the other work that they've been putting out there as well. How does your work fit within their work? Because I think, it's probably better not to publish than to have a bad experience, because once it's out there, right?
Yeah.
And before you were talking about your advance, presumably the way it works is like traditional publishing, where you have to earn out your advance and then you get royalties. Is that how it works with you as well?
We get the advance, which is based on predicted number of sales of the first print run. And then I just get like the standard industry royalties rate for a fiction writer.
Great. So you're going to get royalties? How exciting.
I know. Yeah. It's funny you mentioned buying an island, because one of the books that I wrote for the English language teaching was part of the Headway series. And the writers of that original series for Oxford University Press, they actually did earn so much money. They bought an island.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, me being a mug, when I wrote my book for part of the series, kind of 30 years later, they just paid me in advance of £10,000. So
you never got your island?
I didn't get an island, no. Oh, maybe I could buy a little traffic island or something.
More niche talking there.
Yep, and also I bet it doesn't matter how you've been published, there's still that amazing buzz when you see it in the real world, on the bookshop shelves and what have you.
Oh, God, yeah. Just imagine that, Tom. Just imagine that.
Can't even imagine it, John.
Speaking of bookshops, I thought it was quite interesting, them sidestepping Amazon. That they feel like it's not worth it. Because it's easy to assume that you need Amazon.
Yeah,
isn't it?
obviously massive, aren't they?
Yeah, you think of their massive reach. But actually, that's just a massive slice of the pie going straight down Jeff Bezos' big old gullet, isn't it?
Give me more money. That's my Jeff Bezos impression. I don't know.
It's nice, that. I bet he does that as well.
He will do. He will.
Of course he will.
But hey, you know what else that interview got me thinking? Not for the first time.
What was that?
The flash fiction community, officially, it's got to be the nicest writing community around, hasn't it? They're just
Yes. I agree. It does seem like a very wholesome little community, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's exactly it.
I think people genuinely want others to do well, which sort of makes sense, I suppose, because that's good for everybody in the community. But
that's true, but it doesn't always follow through, does it? Human nature being what it is, then you're never far away from the green-eyed monster or crabs in the bucket mentality.
Yes, that is sadly true. Yeah.
Damn you humans, be more nice to people. Yeah. I find it interesting what Kathryn was saying there about a cover,
right,
as well. And I don't know if that's sort of a bigger picture again with the small publishers that feels like you can bring a bit more to the party. You
have more say over it.
A big publisher is more like saying, no, that's not how we do it. This is how we do it. Whereas you've got maybe that little bit more freedom to say, actually, this is what I was thinking. And especially if you're a first-time author or you're kind of early and you haven't got that, and you're able to kind of stick your neck out and say, actually, no, this is what I want.
Yeah, you see, maybe that's the whole best of both worlds thing. There might be some truth to that, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, well, if we said it, of course it is. Remember, incisive, erudite, unimpeachable. That is how we roll.
Yes, of course. So next up, we had a chat with Luke Palmer,
who has also been published through a small publisher.
Yeah, you probably don't need to say that, Tom. That is literally the point of this episode, isn't it? To speak to people who've been published through a small publisher. So,
indeed. People like Luke Palmer, who has been published through a small publisher.
So, Luke Palmer, you are with Firefly, aren't you?
I am, yes, yeah.
I was having a look at their website, and they look from the outside like a very slick and professional outfit.
Yeah.
Is that true? Or is it all just a clever front?
It's they're brilliant, actually. I don't know any different, to be honest, but my experience has been great. They're a small outfit. It's not a big team, but they're brilliant. I think they're kind of quite niche in that it's a children's publisher.
So that's picture books to YA,
all the way up to YA. Yeah.
And what did your journey to finding them look like, Luke? Have you tried to get traditionally published with a big publishing place? Have you agents? Like, what was your...
I have an agent, and we shopped the manuscript around for the first book I think we went with the big five first.
Yeah.
Funnily enough, it's quite, the book's quite, it sits in quite a moral grey area. The first book's about far-right radicalisation, and the main character kind of gets sucked into the world of the far right, and isn't particularly good at...
And that's a picture book for 3-year-olds,
is it? Yeah? And so, the big five, we'll turn it down.
Yeah.
But, and quite a lot of the big five publishers, actually, they didn't really get what we were trying to do with it. And they were saying, look, you've got this, your 15-year-old protagonist is sitting there in a room full of horrible Nazis, and they don't really do anything about it. And it's like, well, it's because they're 15.
Yeah.
And there's one particular scene where there's another character who's opening up about an abusive relationship she's in. And one of the editors at one of the big five houses said, but they're not a hero enough. They need to rescue that person. It's like, well, I don't know how well equipped you were at 15, but like this kid's he's not really got the goods to do that. But Firefly, were Penny Thomas, who's the kind of chief editor over there, she absolutely got what the book was trying to do, and I think they seemed that much more willing to take risks, I think.
Right, embracing the nuance.
Absolutely, and if anything, they wanted more of that.
And did you feel that click with them then? Was there like
definitely.
Was there a romantic moment where it all fell into place?
over a candlelit dinner.
Yeah.
Indeed. No, it was just Penny just got what the book was trying to do, and since then the second and third book she was the same as well. So I think the smaller publishers can afford to be that bit braver.
Right.
I think it's obviously they're trying to sell books, but it's not like you're trying to find the kind of lukewarm, radio-friendly unit that I suppose that kind of big houses are looking for to make a huge success out of, so they can push the envelope a little bit more, I think. And with Firefly, I get the real sense that they're on board with what I'm trying to do, and it's a really good fit. So it's been brilliant.
And how much help do you get in terms of like the sort of editing help and marketing help and stuff like that from Firefly?
The editing's quite hands-on. Me and Penny do chuck quite a lot of drafts backwards and forwards and argue about commas and that kind of stuff, which I quite enjoy. And so I guess my training, so to speak, was in poetry. So I quite enjoy the editorial process. Right. I quite like that kind of rigorous back and forth. So there's enough of that to keep me happy. I mean, I think the one place where the smaller presses do struggle is with that marketing push. I think there's one girl who's brilliant, Grace, who does she's the marketing basically, and she's got more than just my book to kind of play around with and try and get out there. So if there is a kind of compromise, I guess it is on that marketing spend.
I guess that's where there is a big difference, because that does come down to pounds and pence and budget, doesn't it, of being able to splash it across the underground posters or
definitely
what have you.
Having said that, a lot of traditional books as well don't get a lot of budget. Depends what it is.
It does,
indeed.
So have you done a lot of the marketing yourself? What does that look like for you?
I'm really rubbish at this side of things. I fiddle around with the social media stuff and the Instagram and that kind of thing. I did I quite enjoyed it, actually. I found myself on the Carnegie shortlist for the second book last year, and they kind of the company that were doing all the marketing for that were, send us loads of B-roll, and I got quite into making B-roll footage. Most of it was just me being silly, and so that was quite fun. I think the thing that I try to tell myself is that regardless of how much effort and time, which could be vast, that I could kind of put into the social media and that side of marketing, my ability on my own to kind of shift the needle on sales is not particularly huge. What I do spend a lot of time doing is school stuff. I do quite a lot of school visits with the book, which I guess as a young people's author, you can do a bit more than, and that I do find really valuable to kind of go and talk to the people that the book's about and that it's for.
I guess it's quite good for feedback as well.
Yeah, that is quite useful. And I'm a teacher as well, so that I'm not beyond the occasional hijacking one of my English classes and using that to get some feedback on the new.
God, can you imagine that teacher? Anyway, class, in my book, at least if you're doing that, you would have that awful thing with English teachers where they go, well, what the author meant in this bit, and you're thinking, did he though?
Yeah.
Did they really?
Yeah, you've got a bit of authority there, definitely.
Actually, yes, I did.
Actually, I did mean that. Yeah.
And do you see yourself staying in this route then in the future? I mean, obviously, I'm not saying, some big five came and slapped a six-figure. Would you? No, stick true to my roots. Thank you very much.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, plus a Netflix deal. I'm not a sellout.
But yeah, in real terms, where do you sort of see your future then? Are you set?
I honestly don't. I mean, I've loved the journey so far. I really have. I think there's always a little bit of me that'd be kind of curious to see what it's like on the other side of the fence, on the other side of the metaphor. What it would be like with one of the big five guys. But like I said, I've the friends that write for YA that I've spoken to that have made that jump. That it swings and roundabouts. Yeah, the advance money might be slightly bigger, but then you're a much smaller fish in a much bigger pond. And getting things like the award nominations and all that kind of stuff, and and like you said, the marketing spend isn't always guaranteed. So again, I don't know. I mean, the only thing that I can control, I think, is what I'm writing, is the kind of quality, the books that I'm writing, and whether I'm interested in what I'm writing. I would definitely shy away from signing, a kind of a big, 3-book mega deal with a publisher that's going to want same again. So I don't know. Who knows? I've got to write the next book first.
What's nice, it looks like Firefly. I mean, you can't tell, but from the outside, it looks like Firefly are really behind you as well. They're kind of really strongly featuring your stuff on the website.
I'm really lucky to have found them, and they're a great outfit to work with.
Good to hear. Again, that idea that smaller publishers are more willing and I suppose more able, they don't have the same commercial pressures as the big five, do they? I mean, they need to sell books and make money, but they can just sort of take more risks. They can afford to be a bit braver, maybe.
I guess there's less of an extent of someone sacking you for it, isn't there? If you're a cog in the wheel of the big five,
you're out the door.
Whereas if it's your publishing company, then you have got that flexibility. And there's something else that comes with that as well that pops up a few times. This idea of clicking with that person, which again, that can happen with a big publisher. Of course it can. You're still dealing with people. But the difference is, I think, in the smaller outfits where you've just got one or two people running the whole show rather than a bigger team, you maybe find that absolute
it might be a bit easier
with them.
I also thought it was good point from Luke when he pointed out that marketing is probably the biggest compromise.
Yeah,
you can't expect the same level of investment in that side of things. It's just not going to.
That's I think that's true. But then, as you said, there's plenty.
Did I say something good?
Ish. Books that are sort of signed by big name publishers, some get the massive bottomless marketing spend, but not all of them do. You just notice those ones because those are the ones you see the poster of or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
The advert on TV or whatever it is.
Yeah, you don't notice the ones that just slip by the wayside.
It's not a level playing field for everyone, even in that bit.
Right then, Tommy, on to the last one for this episode.
Indeed, last but by no means least.
Definitely not. So, long-time listener Genevieve Marenghi-Daly, whose writing we very much enjoyed in the past.
Yeah, you remember she was featured in our Hype Writer feature just the other week with a 25-word story.
Yeah, so we thought we'd better have a little chat with her about her experiences of working with small publishers.
Yeah, you don't need to say that, John. We all know it's about small publishers.
So, Genevieve, tell us your story. You're publishing a book. That's very exciting.
I know. It's been a bit of a whirlwind because it's been quite quick. I entered the first 10,000 words in the inaugural Women's Prize Discoveries Award, forgot all about it, of a very raw manuscript that became No Oil Painting. I got longlisted and as a result was signed with an agent from Curtis Brown.
Amazing.
Yeah, I thought, wow, this is brilliant. So submitted to over 20 editors, got some nice feedback, all no's, but I got a bite from an editor at Hodder and Stoughton. My agent arranged a Zoom and we clicked really well. She liked my whole concept. She liked the characters, but she gave me some notes to make it more commercial. Mm-hmm. And they all really chimed with me. And my agent knew them all really well at Hodder and said, God, they're all really excited about no oil painting. So I'm believing all this. I'm thinking, right, okay. So I turned around and quite a major redrafting as quickly as I can. And we submitted again, a second submission, which is quite rare. But by this stage, the editor had moved on to another publishing house, but back catalogues. So she was out. Right. And my agent had to pause submission because she was going on maternity leave and there wasn't any cover. Oh, and we also had to part ways. Oh, so God. I went from like there thinking, yeah.
Oh, you're nearly there, nearly there.
Yeah. I think that was beginning of 24. And then nothing. So I thought, right, I'm going to park this writing malarkey. This is not for me. And also various things going on in my life. My dad, Alzheimer's was worse. I was sort of caring for him. And I sort of dabbled a bit. I'd written 20,000 words of a second novel. I got some feedback on that, but mainly just tinkered with short stories and some flash fiction. I don't know if you've heard of a podcast, Failing Writers.
Sounds good.
Yeah, they're festive flash fiction.
Were they instrumental in your...
Well, do you know what? No joking aside, it was a real boost. And as I said to Tom, what is so good about your podcast is that it's kind of like real. So it was a massive boost. It made me think, do you know what? Maybe I can write.
Maybe this could actually be fun after all.
Yeah, it made it enjoyable. So that was heartening. But in the meantime, I've been sort of half-heartedly submitting no oil painting to various indie publishers that specialised in crime and cozy crime, but just been ghosted. So then I reconnected with my fellow Discoverers listees of my year group because of the pandemic, we'd never even spoken. So we had a couple of Zooms, and one of them, Elizabeth Kudalowski, had been published through a small indie called Burton Mayer Books. There are two of them, but it's mainly Richard Mayer's. And he sounded interested. He said, I think it sounds quite fun. I like your concept. I sent him a few extracts you can write. So we had a couple of calls and he was refreshingly straightforward. And so I thought, well, I might as well give it a go. He seemed to know a lot about the publishing industry. And the idea was that I don't pay any money up front. I sent him my full manuscript. He would do some flow edits just to make sure that I wasn't saying inciting violence or anything exciting like that.
Which is what normally happens with your writing.
Your reputation precedes you.
And I said, oh, dear, you spoiled my ending because I was going to incite a massive riot at the end, but never mind. Yeah, and I'd already in effect been edited through Curtis Brown. So at the same time, I had to go away, research covers and my market. And I also contacted the Society of Authors to get advice on his contract, and they were really good. I basically tweaked the contract I wanted and we signed in May. And the print date is October the 10th. So it is a little tiny bit overwhelming, but I'm just sort of embracing Liam and I'm rolling with it. I'm going to I might as well just go with it. He was the one that showed interest. I would quite like to have had my cover by now, but we're working on that. And I get very involved with that. I know exactly what I want. I got created my own tagline. I got some cover quotes.
Are you driving that then? You're driving the cover, or is that it's sort of in collaboration with Burton?
He pays for the cover. Yes, in collaboration. He said go and research it, but I, being me, I knew exactly. Because a lot of the cozy crime covers I don't really like.
Right.
So I had a very clear idea of what I wanted. So
which is interesting because that may be levels of control that you wouldn't have had with the larger publishing house.
I don't think so, no. Because I know quite a few writers who are with major publishing houses, and some of them haven't liked their covers, or some of them, they've had to be through their agent saying, I don't really like it. It's all been a bit, but the deal is I do, as I say, do all my own marketing, and that's quite scary for someone who is not a major influencer. It's got a paltry following, and is a real Gen X Luddite. I'm not media savvy, so it's sort of quite scary at the same time. But the pros and cons. I haven't got a media and sales team breathing down my neck saying, oh, you haven't posted a poll in the last couple of days or things like that. I'm sure it's great, but I don't think that's how I work. So I'm going to have to go quite left field and just sort of literally do a little bit of cold calling, almost like go to local bookstores with my books.
Yeah.
On a sale or return basis, especially the indie ones, because Amazon's going to be my main marketplace realistically. Yeah. Because the indie publishers can't compete with the big publishing houses because obviously their authors have a print run, so they get them mass produced, I think, in India for very cheaply, whereas indie titles are print on demand. And so you can't really compete. Much as I want to support indie store, I'll aim for my local stores because I've written a book about a local landmark. It's Ham House, a National Trust property.
Oh, that's a good idea. Yeah.
So Waterstones locally have said they'll be interested in taking that. It's not about making money, but I'll sort of break even or shoulder the cost. And so will the local indie stores. And I'm having a launch in a local indie store. But other than that, I'm not aiming for there's no point in trying to get into Waterstones all over the UK. So that's going to be the problem because I'm an unknown author. I'm not a celeb. It's just getting hits on Amazon and that bastard algorithm. You've got to feed the algorithm with the good reviews. Yeah. That's the reality. But I think, you know what? I decided that it's better to get my protagonist is called Maureen. She's a septuagenarian. She's 70-something. Mm-hmm. And this was written well before Richard Osman's Thursday Murder Club, can I just say? And there isn't a murder in it. I just thought, I just want Maureen out in the world. I just want to let her go.
Run free, Maureen. Run free.
Exactly. Let her go and then I can just move on. But it was still bugging me. I thought, the way it ended. So this opportunity came up and I grabbed it.
So in terms of the financial side of it, Genevieve, getting into as little or as much detail as you feel comfortable with.
Yeah.
So how is that kind of stated up front? So obviously you said you're not kind of putting any money in up front.
No. So what he pays for all the production and initial cost of producing the book, which isn't a huge amount, and that will come out of my initial sales.
Right, okay.
And so I'm not paying money up front. He also pays for the cover design. I might end up paying towards that if, I don't like the stock photos or whatever.
If you're being too picky,
Yeah, which
sounds likely at this stage.
But, it does sound likely. But the thing is, you do judge a book by its cover, don't you?
You absolutely do.
And also, as I'm chief marketer, giving myself that title, I've got to like the cover.
Yeah, no, you'll regret that for a long time otherwise, wouldn't you, every time you see it?
Yeah, so he pays for that as well. And in the contract it says I have to do marketing, but it says, he's not going to be saying, oh, you haven't posted anything. I could say, well, I'm having a book launch at Books on the Rise, Richmond Hill, shout out. Yeah. I've done my bit. That could be as little. Obviously, it's not. I'm going to do a lot more than that.
And do you have to earn out the cost that they've put in, as it were, before you get royalties? Or
yeah, he will take £350, whatever it is, to produce the book out of my sales. But if I sell nothing, he's not going to say, right, I need that money. He said that's the risk he takes. That's his risk.
Good.
And he said to me, I'm not a possessive publisher. You can use this as a launch pad. In a few years' time, if you want to go with another publisher, that's fine. It's more about establishing a platform for yourself as an author. And the contract, the advice I got it was quite standard. I get 75% net. I got it checked with the Society of Authors. Yeah. I did actually pay to get it proofread. That was just for me. I didn't need to do that, but I just wanted to make sure that certain things in grammar and italics and things were consistent, so it didn't jar for the reader. But yeah, there's been very little expense up front. So it's all been pretty straightforward. It's more, I was very naive looking back about the whole publishing industry. I thought, well, this is how it works. You enter a competition, you get an agent, and then you get a publishing. You sort of believe everything. Oh, they're really excited. They're really interested in TV rights. They think, okay, well, that sounds good. And of course, until it's signed, it was from a high to a low. And I hate the expression learning curve, but I can't think of a better one. But I had this opportunity. He was the one that said yes. I mean, I pretended that I'd had other interest. I don't mind if he hears this now.
Too late now, man.
But I hadn't. We signed the contract. But the point is, this opportunity came along, so I thought, well, I might as well take it.
Yeah.
And if I sell 10 copies to my family, it's better to get it off iCloud and go with it and learn from it, and then.
Well, it's available now. You've got no chance, have you, if it's not available to anybody? I've got a question for you though. Why?
Yes.
Why not self-publish? Did you feel like you needed your hand holding a little bit through the process, being the first time?
There was that, and also I had a friend of a friend who wrote YA fiction, and he'd had the same agent as Lemony Snicket. He'd been flown out to Hollywood, and exactly the same thing happened. He was like more the dizzying heights, and then nothing.
Wow.
And he ended up self-publishing, and he said he works in PR. He ran a PR company, and he said he was just taken aback by how much work you have to do. Right. And I'd heard that often with self-publishing, it works better for some types of genres like sci-fi or romantasy. and that you might have to give your first book away free and build up readership. So none of these things work for me. I mean, obviously there were scams out there as well for self-publishing. There are scams in indie publishing as well. But I think my confidence had been so dented, like circumstances outside my control, that I also needed a bit of validation.
Yeah.
And I needed him to say, no, this is good. I'm enjoying this. I'm invested in Maureen. You write with humor and intelligence. It wasn't just I needed the boost of my ego. I just needed to know when you're so close to a piece of work that you've been working on for years, it gets to the point where you just can't work out whether this is really embarrassing and I should go and dig a hole and bury myself in it, or whether it actually has legs and deserves to be published. And I needed someone to say, no, it's good. Let's do it.
In many ways, we still don't know, do we? We'll find out in October.
Well, yeah. I decided that one of my marketing strategies should be, I mean, I am half Italian, so I thought, well, let's go left field and intimidation, threat and violence.
There's a theme emerging here. Yeah.
Yeah. So you will buy a copy of my book. You will leave a 5-star review. I will find you. I will read extracts of your letterbox until you do. You wouldn't get that with a big 5, would you?
No, that's true.
No, they'd probably frown upon that kind of thing.
They might do. Why not?
Tell us about the book then. It's called No Oil Painting.
No Oil Painting.
So it's not kind of a genre, but is it a sort of literary fiction? How are we describing it?
No, it's not literary.
If you could see Genevieve's face now.
Yes, I'm aiming for the Booker Prize. I mean, it's Booker Prize. No, it's commercial feel-good fiction. I suppose I don't really like the cozy crime label because it often involves murder, and there is no murder in this. And can I just add again, I'd written this before Richard Osman's Thursday Murder Club series, okay?
Yeah, no, I think you mentioned that, yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to keep mentioning that, although he did do it quite well. Damn him. So I've been volunteering for years at Ham House and I loved it. I loved the fellow volunteers. They really made me laugh. And I heard this radio interview about an art detective who'd negotiated a drop-off of a multi-million-pound Titian that I think had been stolen from the Marquis of Bath. And it was dumped literally in a stripy placky bag at a bus stop outside Richmond Station in 2002. Now, obviously, it was a negotiated drop-off, but I just thought, I go past that station all the time. Imagine everyone rushing past, and there's this Titian in a placky bag at a bus stop. And I just thought, oh my God, it kind of like blew my mind. And I couldn't shake this image. And I thought that would make such a good ending. I mean, that isn't the ending of my book, but I thought the idea of a reverse art heist came. And then, with my volunteers, I used to get bored. And I used to think, what could I steal? How could I get away with it? And I brought that up at a game. A volunteers' Christmas lunch came. I said, okay, the fire alarm's gone off at Ham House. What are you going to steal? In all the panic, what would you steal? I had one woman saying, well, I think the lavender in the still house would be very nice. I said, no, not the dried lavender. There's got to be something that gives you a custodial sentence. So I thought, well, I've sort of got my beginning and end.
Yeah.
Maureen, my 70-something volunteer, probably 77, something like that. She steals a painting in a moment of madness. Various things are going on in her life. Darkness from the past, because you have to create some backstory. Why she shouldn't just go and steal a painting. She's having a sort of eve of life crisis, and then some of her fellow volunteers work out what she's done and they have to try and put it back without being caught. So it's kind of like a reverse art heist at the National Trust.
Brilliant, love it.
Sold.
Absolutely.
Love it.
Okay, I'll await your 5-star review.
Well, what a fantastic story, and what a fantastic story of your journey to get the story out there as well. Thank you for sharing that with us. That's for all the big dip off the end of the roller coaster. It looks like you might be on and back up the roller coaster.
Yeah, I'm hoping so. I'm hoping this might be a sort of turnaround.
Yeah. And to be fair, when it becomes an international bestseller, there's going to be a lot less pressure on you for your second book, having just been through a small publisher rather than one of the big houses.
Yeah. Also, I think I'm going to get very involved with the Netflix production of it. So I'm going to have to get involved in the screenwriting. So takes a bit less pressure off. Yeah.
Who are they casting?
I think Imelda Staunton's going to play Maureen. I've decided,
Nice.
Oh, nice.
And I think Fiona Shaw would play probably Thelma.
Okay, you've thought about this, haven't you?
I have thought about it quite. Phyllis Logan play Rona. Yeah. Have I thought about it? Yes.
Yeah. Are there any bit part characters in it that are maybe English?
Couple of Yorkshire lads.
Middle-aged Yorkshire lads?
I could certainly...
Anything? Or could they be written in maybe?
Yeah, they could certainly be written in.
I could be eating a scone or something.
Definitely.
I want to hear about the heist while I'm eating an afternoon tea in a National Trust property. And then...
And spit the tea out.
John, you can spit your tea out and I'll look straight down the barrel of the camera and say, scone in 60 seconds. Because that's like about the scones and the thief. So anyway, think about it, Genevieve. It's fine.
Yeah, okay.
You don't have to say yes now.
Think about
it. We can do a different gag. It's fine. I mean, whatever.
Nice pitch, Tom.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll take it one step at a time, eh?
I mean, that's a great story and everything.
Isn't it?
It really is. But do you know what my main takeaway from that is, Tom?
No, what was that?
For me, it's the fact that we are going to be Hollywood stars.
Well, yeah, I mean, that was like, that's contractually, it's a verbal contract, isn't it?
I think that's legally binding, isn't it? I think that's, yeah.
So we just need to cross fingers that it gets onto Netflix or whatever.
Also, the Society of Authors came up again. That is obviously a good resource to use when you're staring blankly at reams and reams of legalese in your first contract. I imagine that's quite helpful.
Great advice to get advice from them. And the golden nugget from all of this, I think that's kind of running through the whole thing, is you don't pay anything up front. There might be optional costs if you want to be awkward and stubborn about your cover, like Genevieve. But that's within your control.
Yeah, I think that's a good shout. So, yeah, anyone asking for money up front, chances are they're up to no good. Because that's just not how things work.
It's not, no, and we kind of find that out in part 2, don't we?
Yeah, we go into a little bit more detail in part 2. But yeah, it's not all bad in part 2 because we first speak to one of the most successful small indie publishers in the country, as we've said, Blue Moose. And it's actually amazing how much great stuff they've put out there over the years.
Oh, yeah, massively.
Yeah, so definitely listen to that.
But thanks for listening to this part 1.
Yep, thanks. And also thanks to our amazing sponsor, Scrivener.
Yep, check them out, literatureandlatte.com.
20% off with the code FAILING.
And we will catch up with you in part 2.
Yeah, you'd better do.
Tony, that was a little bit threatening, that. Maybe just do the...
All right. Please.
Borderline desperate, but that'll do.
Hello.
Hello?
Where's everybody gone?